This podcast is for entertainment purposes only and does not constitute professional advice. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed are the speaker's own and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of their affiliated organizations.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Ready to Connect. I'm Ryan.
I'm Heather.
And I'm Lisa.
And today we're continuing to go down our Haunted America series, and we're going to touch base on some southern states with North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. But before we get into that, what has everyone been up to? Has anything interesting happened in the past week? Who wants to share first?
I'll go.
Okay, go ahead, Lisa.
Well, this past weekend, I had a meeting with my book club, which, I love my reading. I love my books. I love my book club. So that was a lot of fun. But my biggest news is yesterday, while babysitting my grandson, he was playing with my hand. He put my finger in his mouth, as babies do, and he bit down, and that little bugger's got a tooth.
Wow. That's awesome.
Whoop, whoop. He's got a tooth. So another milestone for my grandson. It just made me so excited. So
Didn't he just turn, what did he just turn?
8 months.
8 months. Oh my gosh, it's going so fast.
Going super fast. And he gets so excited to see me and squeal. So that just makes my grandma heart so happy. My daughter and son-in-law doing a fantastic job with him. But he's got a little tooth and you can see it. The amount of drool coming out of that boy's mouth, though, it's amazing. I forget all that kind of stuff, but yeah. So anyway, that's my big news. Who wants to go next?
Go ahead, Heather.
All right. Well, it was a sad day in the DeLusa house on Friday.
Oh.
Yeah. I lost my little girl.
Oh.
Her cat, not her daughter. Please.
My cat. Her name was Little Girl. And this was a testament of spirit really does speak or show you or communicate with you. So it was quite interesting after the whole ordeal at the vet's in the morning, saying our goodbyes. I was sitting in my chair with my other cat, my last cat, Mr. Sophie. And some of you all know who Mr. Sophie is. He came to us as Sophie, but later on we determined that Mr. Sophie was a boy, so he became Mr. Sophie. But Mr. Sophie and I were hanging out on the chair, looking outside and doing whatever. And this beautiful, so kind of put it out there, hey, little girl, let me know if you made it safely. And a bald eagle landed in the pine tree right in front of my driveway.
Wow.
If that's not a sign, then I don't know what that is, right? It was incredible. And leave it to little girl to become a bald eagle. She had a pretty rough start in life before she came here to this house. And she was really a special kitty. So to have this beautiful bald eagle land in the tree, which the lake is frozen over, so we know the bald eagles are not flying over the lake right now to, fish and whatnot. So I took that as a big sign that little girl made it over the Rainbow Bridge. So, yeah. Very cool.
Little girl was one of my favorites. She really was. She always greeted me at the door. When I was walking through the door, if Mama wasn't home, then I was coming to open her can of food and feed her and pet her. And she was always very vocal and I'm hungry and feed me. And
everybody knows little girl is the kitty that puts pulls in your pants. Yep. She was famous for keeping her claws out and letting you, leaving her mark on your jeans when you came and sat down. But she was insistent to snuggle. So
She's just an awkward snuggler. Her claws would be out because she didn't know, how to do it very well. But funny, having known little girl for over 10 years, I remember her being so little. In my mind, she's still a young little kitty, but she was an older cat by the time she passed, though.
Yeah. Yeah, and Ryan, I know you had the experience of the claws in your thighs. Yep.
Yes. And I was gonna say, yeah, that was her. She insisted on laying in my lap.
Yep, but she was not gonna let go.
Yeah, she was so sweet.
She was. She was a sweet girl. So I'm glad she's safe.
Yeah, she is. She's
Yep.
safe and not in pain.
She's a bald eagle. How mighty.
That's incredible.
Yeah. What about you, Ryan? What do you
Well,
got?
didn't really do too much over the past.
No adventures
Although
with Watson?
haven't really had too many adventures other than watching him hop through the snow. So that's been fun. He's
With
making
his
his own
little
little
legs.
he's making his own little tunnels and just hopping around and because he's just so frustrated that he can't get through the yard like he used to, so he's just like, I'm gonna make my own path, and he literally did. So
I
but
love it.
other than that, it's been yeah, it's been kind of low key. But what I have been noticing recently is it's like I think of someone or multiple people, and then they're all contacting me like the next day, and whether it's former clients, people I haven't talked to, like friends I haven't talked to in like 10 plus years, and it's just like, wow, why is everyone coming out of the woodwork? Maybe because it's winter time and they just decide to contact. I don't know, but it is interesting that I thought about specific people, and then like the next day, and I even wrote it on my list of things to do. Oh, I got to call so and so, and then they call me instead. So but it
That's
just worked out that
fantastic.
way. Yeah,
Happens all the time. Happens
yeah,
all the time.
It
You're sending
actually
out
happened.
vibration that you want to hear from them or that you need to talk to them, or they're sending that to you, which makes you think, I need to call them.
hmm
It's all energy, right?
that's
Yeah.
true. That's a good point.
And even to solidify it more, yesterday I pulled a tarot card that said someone from my past was going to contact me. And I was like, okay, I'm not, just left that open. And yesterday evening, one of our earliest favorite clients Lisa and I had is Miriam and Jose. And they are beautiful souls, absolutely beautiful souls. I received a text message last night that Miriam and Jose want to try to work it out so that one of their friends will take Reiki from Lisa and I. And we haven't heard from Miriam and Jose in a few years now.
I'm so worried about them. Well, that's
Pre-COVID.
amazing.
Yeah, so I figured that'd be exciting news for you too, Lisa. So it was really great that not only did my tarot tell me that I was going to hear from somebody in the past, but it was also somebody from the past that we absolutely adore. They're great people. And so I'm really excited to get on and working with them. But yeah, it just shows you that when you ask, spirit will answer, whether it's through pendulums or tarot or psychic work or, different signs that spirit gives you. People do circle back. I think it's that new year energy too, where everything's kind of in alignment. Like I've been really watching, I'm not an astrologer. I don't really get into like the house signs and how they correlate with our horoscopes and whatnot, but it does seem that all the planets are in alignment with the moon right now, and it just feels like the energy is alive and like just welcoming. And of course we welcome new friends and old friends, right? So very exciting. I agree with you, Ryan.
That's just great to hear from Miriam Jose. I've been worried about them, so they've been
Yeah.
circling in my mind too. So that just goes to show, you think about these things and then they end up reaching out,
Yeah.
Uh, that's just great. Well, should we get right to it? Let's continue our Haunted America series. And why don't we go to the great state of North Carolina? And I believe that was something you grabbed to do, Heather.
I did, and guess what? I found a lady in pink.
Oh,
What?
pink?
What?
Pink yet?
Wow. Okay, that's a new one. I feel like we need a map or something, like a chart with all the colors, and then we write in like, or we have like
Now we got to get like
a
different
push
colored
pin.
push pins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, now we have a
That'd
lady in
be
pink.
awesome.
Okay, put up that pin.
Put a pin in
Totally. So totally excited. I was like, all right, I want to hear all about this. So it was part of my research was the Omni Grove Park Inn in Asheville, North Carolina. It was built and opened in 1913. And there's been hauntings reported since 1913 all the way up into 1920s into the current times. And the ghost story is all about the Pink Lady. And I was like, this is really cool how we're finding this correlation of all these different states as we go and investigate, where the local people give, the women a color. We've had blue, right? We've had black. We did have the man in the white wig, but yeah, so the Pink Lady was thought to be a young lady, a young woman who fell from the 5th floor and in the Palm Court atrium. And it's said that she still haunts the inn, and she's seen as a pink mist or a woman in a pink gown. And all the guests that go there report that when they're in there, the lights flicker and all that good stuff of hauntings, right? The lights flickering, the AC units cycle on and off irregularly because she alters the temperature. She's actually considered an intelligent paranormal activity. She does have active interactions according to some of the posts I found, that she will interact with you. And they're also saying there's a lot of other phenomenon that happens at this inn and the continuous presence. So I was like, all right, if I ever get down to Asheville, that's definitely going to be on the list. I want to meet the lady in pink. Pink happens to be my favorite color. So
There you go.
Absolutely. And then I moved on and kept, kind of digging in. They didn't have much more about the Pink Lady, but definitely worth checking it out. And of course, if any of our listeners are from North Carolina, please, please, please tell me more about this Pink Lady. But then I moved on to the Devil's Tramping Ground. And I guess this is outside like Silver City. And it's a natural barrier that's known over in this county. And for decades, the folklore dates back to like the 20th century. Apparently, it's a 40-foot circle, and vegetation refuses to grow there. It's a lot like here in Connecticut. Over in Bolton, Connecticut, we have a cemetery called Bamforth Cemetery. And there is one particular circle where the children are all laid in that cemetery, where vegetation won't grow. So this seems to be something that does happen, not just in cemeteries, but apparently all over, where vegetation will not grow, even grass. It's not because it's in the north side and the moss is there or whatever. This is just general facing area. So the legend is that the devil himself, so Diablo, comes and visits, and he walks here nightly contemplating chaos. And I thought, well, this is not where I want to go. I don't need any chaos in my life.
Chaos there. Leave that chaos there. No more here.
I'm sure, Ryan, you agree too.
Yep, we don't need that. That's okay.
Stay there. But apparently, like any objects that get placed in this area often vanish by morning. Now, I was really trying to poke at that one because, as a medium, we want to decipher like real hauntings versus like, some made up story of like ghost hauntings. And sometimes when I hear things like, things vanish by morning, if I need to witness that. I couldn't find any YouTube videos where people actually recorded and, the object went missing. So I'm going to leave that one on a 50-50 basis, only because I want to see the object vanish. Or is it because somebody goes into the, cemetery at night and just takes the object, right? Like we have to have some kind of more scientific proof. But according to, the local lore, it's a residual energy. It's not, and that's the other thing that kind of threw the red flag up. If it's a residual energy, how is it making things vanish? If it's an intellectual haunting, then they would have the foresight to go and pick up the object and maybe move it or kick it aside or whatever they may do. But because they were saying this is a residual folklore, it's hard to put the pieces together on this one. And honestly, I'm not going to go visit because I have no desire to meet Diablo. I have no desire to create any extra chaos in life. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt for it, right? So definitely. But it is linked to also this area having lots of reports about disappearances. So wasn't a lot of like real proof to kind of back any of this story up. So anybody listening that knows about Devil's Tramping Ground, I'd love to hear more. I'd love some scientific proof that maybe I didn't find. Definitely. And then the last one that I came across was Cape Hatteras Lighthouse, and that's in the Outer Banks. And this is a ghost ship from 1921. How exciting. Arr, matey, right? So the lighthouse was constructed in 1870. The Carol A. Deering, Deering, Carol Deering ghost ship was washed ashore in 1921 with no crew. Food was found freshly laid out on the abandoned ghost ship since the sightings is what they're saying. And it also includes a phantom cat, which is residual, and inexplicable noises and sensations around the lighthouse and around the ship, which I can fully imagine. Whether energy is residual or intellectual there, you're going to hear lots of noises. It's a ship, right? And the creaking and the lighthouse whirring, and kind of sets like a whole kind of great story. But they do say there's lingering echoes of maritime merchants and disappearances, and lots of active sightings of people roaming around these areas. And that was a really cool find. Not a lot of information to back up the ghost story part of it, but I believe it. I mean, you can go down to Groton, you can go down to Mystic, Connecticut, and go into some of those ships and whatnot, and it's very clear. If you've ever been to Hawaii and gone to our Navy base where you can tour, you're going to hear lots of energy. So I feel that anything ghost ship related, you're going to get residual and intellectual sightings. There's also the battleship in North Carolina, the Wilmington, which was a World War II history ship. It was commissioned in 1941, and it did see action through World War II. So the major torpedo strikes killed several sailors on this ship. And so when you go out and visit the Wilmington, there's heavy reports of visitors seeing shadows going across the ship. There's passageway doors that get opened up for no reason at all, which they shouldn't be, because most things on a ship are probably crank closed, like the wheel closed lock, like almost like
secured. Yeah, they have to be secure.
Yeah, obviously, because you don't want a door whipping open when you're on heavy seas, right? I'm not a sailor, but I can totally empathize. So there's lots of shadow figures, lots of passageway, and they also say the hatches of the ship open and close, which again, being on a ship, if you're on the water, you don't want any hatches popping open. That's common sense, right? But the best part is footsteps. People hear lots of footsteps, and they can actually see an apparition moving with those footsteps. And I kind of love stuff like that, because you can, especially if you're a seer, if you're clairvoyant, if you can see what they're wearing and where they're coming from, it puts a story together of what their job was on that ship. But there's also lots of reports of objects moving in the washroom and all over the boat that's not nailed down, where sailors had, lost their life due to the torpedo strike. So lots of talk about the intelligence and residual energy, lots of sounds, lots of movements, very consistent for almost everybody, that even non-believers, it's saying, are reporting active phenomena and paranormal. So it's really cool. There was a lot of places in North Carolina. That's just 3 of them out of, I found about 12 different places down in North Carolina that had real distinct intellectual paranormal happening. So definitely be sure to listen, and we'll put some more of these up on Patreon, so you can hear all about it and maybe do your own homework or participate and give us some feedback.
Yeah, yeah, that's very cool. I love footsteps on a ship because they echo.
Yeah.
They're louder to me. All right.
That's a good point.
Yeah. What about you, Ryan, down in South Carolina?
Yeah. So continuing down the coast, so I found a couple hauntings in South Carolina, and I knew that Charleston had a good amount of hauntings, so I just found a couple there to share. Also, a long time ago, I visited South Carolina and took like a little tour, and I saw one of these places actually, so that's why I wanted to report on it. But the first that I wanted to talk about is the Old City Jail in Charleston, South Carolina. It was built in 1802. It was first a hospital, but then it was used as a prison until 1939. It's considered one of the most haunted places in the area. Let's see. So basically, the research that I found is they're saying it seems like it has like an eerie reputation, comes from, tales of harsh conditions, numerous deaths, notorious criminals who passed away in the cells. However, it was originally the site was originally designed for public use, including burial grounds, I forgot about that one, and hospitals for the poor before the jail was made. So that just adds another layer to it. Visitors usually see anything from apparitions and figures, so like shadowy figures or misty shapes, have been seen in the cells or the corridors, especially in the areas tied to famous inmates that were there. They hear whispering voices, footsteps, again, chains rattling, which makes sense. Doors slamming have been reported when no one is present. Sometimes there will be sudden drops in temperature, even feelings of like dread or emotional heaviness, which once again makes sense just because of both, I suppose the hospital and a jail. I mean, I can only imagine what type of energy someone would be feeling in that.
Yeah, all the emotions that are connected in those two kind of locations. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. There's been some accounts of jewelry or small items vanishing and reappearing, lights turning on and off. There have been some paranormal groups and tourists who have captured on camera orbs, faces, shapes, and photos taken inside the jail as well. And then there's a couple key figures who usually pop up. So I think it'd be pretty cool to take a visit and see if we could see any of these figures that pop up. There is a little boy named, I might butcher this, Alonzo Small. He's a 10-year-old convicted murderer who was in prison. When I read that, I had to read it like 5 more times to make sure I read it correctly. Who was imprisoned in 1913. He passed away shortly after. His spirit is also associated with a wheelchair on the 3rd floor, and he has been seen in a tower. So it makes me wonder if maybe something else was going on too. I don't know, especially because there's a hospital connection as well.
Convicted murderer, but he's connected to a wheelchair.
Yeah, I don't know. That's what the research said. So I'm confused by that. So I'm interested if anyone has read up on it, or maybe they've witnessed it as well.
The sightings in all these locations that we're researching that are shadowy figures or, apparitions of such and such. When you look at a lot of the paranormal investigative teams that have these fancy cameras to catch things and stuff like that, but yet a lot of the reports come from just regular old people with their naked eyes seeing this stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's incredible. But it's fascinating.
I know that the technology that the investigative teams use helps that naked eye, I mean, maybe put form to it or whatever. But I just find it fascinating that, I've gone on, I can't tell you how many different types of ghost walks or haunted places with friends, just to kind of hear the stories. And I'm always with my naked eye trying to see something. You know what I
Yes.
mean? And catch something. And every now and then a little something, but I don't know. It'd just be really cool. I don't know, Heather, if you've done a lot of these, I mean, you've gone through a lot of the mansions in Newport, but have you ever done any kind of like the specific ghost walks or things like that? And the clairvoyant of our duo here, have you ever like, you know, caught those shadow figures with the naked eye? I mean, I remember seeing certain things like at Mark Twain House here and there, but it's always for me out of the periphery and very fleeting. More
Absolutely.
like me, a sensation of feeling them there, you know? Yeah.
Absolutely. I've done many ghost tours locally, Mystic, Newport, down in Greenwich and whatnot. There's lots of really great places to tour, even here in Connecticut. And one one that stands out for me that I can speak to on the spot is when we had done the the servants tour. So we went to Newport, and one of the mansions offers the servants tour, and it's you go under these tunnels where they used to, the servants had to use these tunnels, but these tunnels were also used for slave moving. Sad to say, but they were used for slave moving, and you can clearly see lots of when you go down in there, sometimes it feels super heavy because people were sick and there's death in there. And so you'll see residual energy. It was never intellectual. It was always residual as we walk through that tour where the energy is going back and forth under those servants' tunnels, which would make sense because if the servants weren't moving through the house, you would need the energy, all their energy would be down there. That's the one that stands out right now, but I'm sure if you give me time, I can come up with another one.
Well, I just find it fascinating. I think a lot of people need to understand too, with seeing spirit, that clairvoyancy that's happening, seeing spirit, it's usually going to be fleeting. It doesn't like hang forever for you to just get everything. I mean, we teach our students how to gather a lot of information in seconds because that's basically all you get.
Right.
And it's just fascinating. I'm sorry. Keep going, Ryan. South Carolina. Keep going.
No, no, I agree. Yeah, just even doing this mini series, I guess that we're doing here of all the hauntings, it's so fascinating, as we've said earlier too. Like all these encounters that people are experiencing or they're seeing, and it's incredible. So yeah, I'd be curious to hear if anyone has experienced anything. They could reach out to us. But yeah, there's a couple other, I guess, well-known figures at the Old City Jail. Lavinia Fisher, I probably butchered that name. My apologies, but legend has it that her and her husband were serial killers. There has been talk maybe she didn't. Who knows? So, but
Okay.
there is a
To
legend
be
about it. Yes, that she is. Yep, a serial killer. And so, yeah,
like the Black Widow of her day.
yeah. So apparently, her and her husband they owned an inn around that time, and they would welcome travelers in and ask them about their jobs, and if it sounded like the traveler had money, they would be like, "Oh, do you want some tea?" And then they would drink poison tea, and yep, and then they would be robbed, and so yeah,
Little hemlock tea.
yeah. That's a brief overview of that of that story, but there's
Wow.
a lot of details. But interesting enough, she has been seen in a wedding dress. So that's interesting. She's been seen not only by inmates who were there. I forgot when she was in there, but probably earlier on, and then also paranormal investigators. There's also a young boy named Jeremiah. He is seen haunting in the basement, which was used as the morgue. He's known to cause cold spots, move objects, and also touch visitors. And then also visitors and staff have reported being pushed. Contractors have seen unexplained footprints in the sawdust, which I find the whole footprint thing just so fascinating. Like I would love to see that happen. I don't know. I just
Yeah.
remember years ago watching an old episode of Unsolved Mysteries. They were talking about a haunting, and I forgot where it was, a hotel or something. But you saw footprints like in a swimming pool, like leading out of the pool. And I'm like, that's so. Ever since I saw that, I'm like, I have to see this in person. So,
It's awesome. We actually, when Lisa and I had done paranormal investigation, we actually put powder on the floor and tried to
oh,
get some and coax somebody to show us that they were present. Yeah, unfortunately, that was so long ago. I don't remember if we actually did Do you remember that, Lisa?
We didn't, but we did get, I think someone wanted us to come and connect with their home, as I remember, because they felt a lot of energy in their home. They want to know what was there. So we tried that, but we did get, I think it was a child energy to move a ball or play with a toy
Yes.
or something. That was like, oh gosh, how many years? 12 years ago, maybe?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
so cool.
Yeah. So it can happen. Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't recommend throwing baby powder all over your house to see if the
We'll never
spirits.
get it up. So,
We won't ask Gregory to do that?
No, I don't
No?
think so.
Okay.
The cleaning crew will probably get very angry with you for dumping powder everywhere.
Probably.
More work for them.
yeah.
For sure.
But that is pretty cool. And then the second place that I found is a place that so I went on a tour years ago, like a historical tour of Charleston, just to learn more about the history and whatnot. And they did mention that this place was one of the most haunted places there, but the Battery Carriage House Inn, often just called the Battery Carriage House. I wish I could have gone inside, but we were just driving back. Anyway, but it was a really nice building too. Like they really did a great job keeping up with it.
Well,
But
I mean, North Carolina, Charlotte, like South
yeah,
Carolina, even Georgia, Savannah, like that old Spanish influence of housing.
yeah,
It's so romantic, right? And the
yeah,
big street lights that used to be gas lamp. It's just a romantic setting that, isn't being built that way in this society. We're more modern now. We don't build old, beautiful Victorian sculptures,
right.
sculptured homes.
Yeah, it definitely makes you feel like you're stepping back in time.
Yeah.
So that's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
And I've never been to South Carolina. Is it a lot like in Savannah where like the moss is hanging from the trees, and is that kind of the setting as well in where in North Carolina? South Carolina,
Yeah,
sorry.
last time I went there was it was a long time ago, so I don't remember much
Yeah.
of the scenery. But like that, I just remember looking at the buildings because that's just what I'm intrigued with.
Yeah. I just remember getting yelled at not to run through the moss because I thought it
Oh,
was so cool, but it's full of chiggers, so you don't want to get all those bugs on you.
yeah, yeah, no, no, you definitely don't want that.
I'll leave
No.
it to my friend to run through moss and get covered with insects. That would
Yeah,
be
exactly.
what happened. Talk about chaos right there.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
The devil made me do it.
That's funny. That's
That was a
funny.
great circle right there. Uh, but yeah, so this building is located in Charleston's historic district. It was built in 1843 as part of the grand property overlooking Charleston Harbor. It later became an inn with guest rooms and what was originally the carriage house. The outer building had horses and carriages as well. So they're saying that the inn has a reputation of being haunted, with many guests reporting strange and unexplained experiences over the years. Activity is subtle and also dramatic, but it is a favorite for people to go and explore. Let's see. So I have some most notable figures here. There's actually three of them, and then I have actual firsthand accounts about it as well. So I'll just go through the description of it first, and then go over because what we talked about previously, or minutes ago, it's the guests who are reporting this. It's not the paranormal investigators that gave their insights into this. So I found that fascinating. But the first one is the headless torso. And I love how these descriptions also gave the room numbers. So if we ever want to go visit, we'll know, all right, I want to go visit the headless torso, so I'll just go to room 8. Like
Yeah. I'd like to make my reservation in room 12 where there would be a disembodied voice.
yeah.
Can you imagine making your reservations based on the haunting of the room?
Totally. Well, there was that one spot
Take
I
it.
found where it was like room 332, and like the couple that were in that room murdered each other. So like there's all
What?
this account. Yeah. So like,
Oh,
yeah, I'd like to stay in the murder room. No.
Well, it's just like the last podcast in the Linville Manor.
Yeah.
I'll stay in the conservatory where there's the most activity, or I'll stay in the Linville Manor room where, my objects will be moved or whatever.
Or, I'd like to check out the bathroom that that will be locked.
That's right, the non-believer bathroom and get locked in. It's on my bucket list right
Yeah.
there.
I feel like we have to create like a bingo card too or something like, all right, well, let's go.
But you know what? That would be kind of a cool idea. All right, something's ruminating here with a road trip and a
Yeah.
bingo card to check off as we go through. What can we find? But yeah,
And we need a map or a chart. I don't know. We got
I'm just saying, some of these
Oh,
haunted places that are actual, like, hotels where you could stay at,
Yeah.
I would just think it would be kind of funny if the way you make a reservation is based on what kind of haunting you want.
but totally. And of course, the people that own are like, oh, here come the ghost hunters again.
I'd like to have my feet pulled while I'm sleeping. That's another thing that happens, I
Yeah.
think, at the Red Lion Inn or something like that. One of the inns, oh yeah, your feet get touched, or I'm like, okay. They do a massage while they're doing that. I'm totally with it. Heather's like vomiting in her mouth on that one. Don't touch her feet, but for me, rub them away.
Rub my head.
I continue. Right. There's a lot to think about.
Yeah, no, we gotta, yeah, these are all great ideas.
We need
But
a map. We need lots of pins, and we need like
A bingo card.
we're gonna need note cards so that we can make. We're gonna go see the lady in pink that was murdered in room 3, whatever, right?
exactly. Uh, but
Too
yeah,
funny.
so in room 8, many guests
All right, room
many
8 it is.
many guests claim to see a floating headless human torso.
I want to see that.
Be
Yeah,
up, man.
often described as a gray, misty torso, hovering near the bed or in the room. Sightings have also been accompanied with cold spots, flickering lights, all the above, I suppose.
Yeah.
Some paranormal investigators, people that love doing this history and whatnot too, they're connecting the spirit to Civil War casualties, which would make sense time period. So I found that interesting.
Sure,
Um,
sure.
in room 10, you can you can get a visit from the gentleman ghost. So,
Oh, sign me up for that one then.
oh, wait till I read the first encounters and all of this. You're gonna be
Oh,
like,
okay.
anyway, so you're like, wow, okay. Anyway, so room 10 is famous for the gentleman ghost, usually described as a grayish, shadowy figure appearing at the foot of the bed or even beside a guest's bed. People have described this present as non-aggressive. Yeah, I guess he's just curious. Sometimes he's wearing clothing of like the 19th century, early 20th century.
Is he bringing me coffee?
Well, he's hanging out with female guests. I'll read more about that in a second. But he definitely seems like a gentleman.
Are you sure? Is
Yeah.
he a Jekyll and Hyde? I don't know.
That's a good question. We'll have to go and find out. But
Okay.
basically, some accounts are saying that he may be a young man once connected to the building's past. Perhaps he was like a house student or a guest who was just there, and that's why he's in the room. And then room number 3 has
Door number
strange.
3.
Yep. I think I wouldn't mind going to room number 3 only because it's. I feel like which room are you gonna take? 1, 2, or 3? Anyway, so just because there's strange
Price
noises.
is right.
Yeah, strange noises from devices. The devices being turned off or on, like flickering orbs of light floating in the room.
Oh, that's annoying. Come
yeah.
on, give me something good.
Yeah. But guests and staff have mentioned doors opening by themselves, which I feel like is common in what we're finding. Cold spots, once again, whispers, the feeling of being watched. That's room number 3. So I feel
Which
like
is pretty
I get that
uncomfortable, right? Like
yeah,
when you think about it, like I've been places where spirits watching you. It's kind of like the wolf at the edge of the woods staring at you, and you're just kind of like, okay, either show yourself so like you stop making all these goosebumps happening in my body, or like just go away.
right.
Actually,
Yeah.
I get all these things that come through warnings and stuff like when you travel, because we travel quite a bit. When you travel, all the things to do in your hotel room, just in case you do have somebody who has put a camera in there,
Mm,
or what to cover, like different areas of your room that you don't realize could be tampered with, so people could be like watching you. So you have that on top of the fact that you might have the spiritual energy watching you too. So uh,
right.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
just, yeah, you just never know.
Right.
Just always go assuming you're going to be looked at. I don't know.
Right.
But
Right.
and I wonder about the doors opening a lot too, because a lot of these
Yeah.
places are older, and you wonder how good the latches are. But then
Mm-hmm.
again, when you have them that are converted where people stay, I
Mm-hmm.
think that they do a really good job of making sure things do stay closed tight, at least for your room, And
Right.
a lot of them, will have a good latch on them. So it's really kind of interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a good point too. Yeah, especially because they're older buildings. Hmm. I didn't think of that, but you're right.
Then again, I have, not a super old house, and we have a hard time keeping our bedroom door shut. So, and
Mm.
that's not old. So who knows? I don't know.
I kind of wonder too if it's related to the weather as well. Because
Could be.
sometimes if it gets colder or warmer, then perhaps the doors won't stay shut.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm. So, first encounter here with the headless torso. So, in room number 8. So, a man in room number 8, he woke up and there was a headless torso standing beside the bed wearing like old fashioned clothing. He thought he was dreaming, so he reached out to touch the figure's coat, but then he heard like a raspy groan, and then the presence disappeared. So that was interesting.
Guess he
Huh.
didn't touch him in the right spot. Wink, wink.
Oh my word. Okay.
He was groaning, so he must have been, or he touched him in the right spot. One or the other. Sorry.
Yeah.
So
Caffeine kicked in. No.
the room number 10 with the gentleman ghost. So yes, there was two twin sisters staying in room number 10. They experienced the gentleman ghost. Late at night, one sister saw a tall, slender gray apparition float through the locked bedroom door. Okay, so we know that door can stay locked. And, and lie down next to her on the bed.
Oh.
Then her sister awakened and screamed like the spirit got up, bowed, and then vanished back through the wall.
So wait, he came in through the wall, laid
Yeah.
down with one of the sisters in the
Yeah.
bed.
Yep.
Other sister saw him and screamed, and
Correct.
that's when he got up.
Yeah.
The one who was in bed with him didn't scream? Or maybe
Apparently not.
was she
No.
still sleeping?
That's my guess. Yeah. Then other accounts have described the gentleman ghost. He will, let's see, laying an arm gently around female guests or standing quietly at the foot of the bed before disappearing. And sometimes
It's like an intelligent haunting then, to
he's
me.
accompanied with a scent of cologne as well.
If you're bowing and stuff, that seems more intelligent.
Exactly. Yeah. So I found that fascinating.
And wouldn't bowing be maybe like a butler or a server, because they would serve something and they would always bow? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
based on historical content, like it seemed there was a specific behavior, someone who was a servant or a butler or whatever, they would bow. So I'm wondering if maybe it was the butler that did it, Colonel Mustard in room 8, something like that. Little
Yeah.
clue going on.
Yeah, exactly.
A servant climbing into bed? I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah,
Interesting.
that's interesting. But I guess most guests have said that he seems just very curious and like caring. Like he's not like wanting to scare anyone. But
Okay.
when I read those encounters, I was like, okay, that's taking it a step further. So I don't know. And then lastly, in room number 3, they're saying, let's see, a couple in room number 3 reported waking up to their turned off cell phone. So their cell phone was turned off, but it was making strange noises and blinking, even though there was no signal in the room. Along with that, they saw a giant firefly-like glow near the bathroom door and then floating in a different area, like orbs of light. And then others in that room have experienced that sensation of being watched, the cold spots, flickering lights, and footsteps.
So that cell phone doing its thing when it's turned off and no signal, I totally believe that because
Mm,
in my own house, I've had spirit control my cell phone and
hmm.
speaks for it, you know.
I've had spirit manipulate, like I use Spotify on my phone, and I've had spirit completely manipulate my playlist. I mean, my playlist is pretty wide spectrumed anyways, but like you'll know when spirit's really trying to get a message because it'll change your playlist, and like
Oh,
it's like messages you need to hear in the song, and you're like, all right, I got it.
Yeah,
but I can see them using because a cell phone, even when it's turned off, its battery is there and it's got energy. So I
true.
could see trying to grab energy so it could do more things and, yeah.
Definitely, definitely.
Wow, that's pretty good, Ryan.
Yeah, maybe all three of us could go. We'll each pick a room.
Absolutely. Just the one. I don't want the room where they're going to touch my feet. You can give that one to Lisa. I'm good.
I'm saying maybe the gentleman. I mean, if I ask nicely, maybe he'll give me. I don't know.
Well, yeah. Well, if it is actually a butler bowing, he might actually acquiesce to your request to rub your feet.
You never know.
You never know.
So,
You never know. But yeah, we definitely need to get a map, and we need to get some pins, and we got to start making a chart here. And of course, I'm really looking forward to our listeners chiming in because maybe they have some things we can add to our, where we need to go kind of list, right?
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, anything else in South Carolina there?
No, no, that was it. So,
That's
Lisa, I'm excited to hear about Georgia.
So we go down to the great state of Georgia, and Georgia is actually, I was born in Georgia. I was born in Athens, Georgia. I'm a Georgia Peach girl, originally. So I was happy to kind of, explore a little bit in the hauntings of Georgia. And of course, everyone knows Savannah as being kind of one of the haunted areas of Georgia, but I went to a different place. I went to Kennesaw Mountain at Cobb County, Georgia. So it's kind of outside of Atlanta there, northern Georgia. And Kennesaw, there's a Cherokee translation, native translation Cherokee, and it means cemetery. But this area of the mountain was the site of a very intense Civil War battle on June 27th, in 1864, where thousands perished. And
Mm,
so, as you can imagine, as we talked about other battlefields before, this area is no different. It has numerous reports of ghost soldiers, disembodied screams, as you can imagine, as people are getting killed. Phantom cannon fire is definitely reported a lot. You can hear like the guns going off. Shadowy figures, another thing. Hearing ghostly regiments, like the actual marching and shouts that you might hear in a regiment during a Civil War battle. Area in this on Kennesaw Mountain, the battlefield area known as Chatham Hill location. It is marked with a sign also known as a dead angle. That's the site of most of the paranormal activity that you're going to find in this area when it comes to like the battlefield voices and stuff. And I watched a few YouTube channels of different investigators trying to grab stuff, whether it be, and it didn't seem to make a difference whether it's nighttime or daytime for reports of these types of sounds that you'd hear or sights that you'd see. Which makes sense to me a little bit because I think a lot of battles were done during the day, not necessarily at night. So, and another thing that happens, which I find fascinating in this area, are vehicles that are in good condition stalling out. No explanation as to why they'll stall out and why they can't start.
hmm.
That to me is a little creepy because that, I'm like, okay, now I'm stranded in this area kind of thing.
Wow.
Back in 2007, there was a sighting of by a man and his son. They were in their car and they sighted a Union cavalry officer on horse crossing the road in their headlights. They saw it in their headlights and it disappeared through a fence off the side of the road. That's another thing that gets seen a lot. A lot of cavalry, a lot of soldiers on horses are spotted. This area also has a white lady, believe it or not,
Oh,
but not a lot said. Just a ghost of a woman in a period dress is all I got mention of. Is a white lady that gets seen every now and then, and it's near the Kennesaw House. So there's a Kennesaw House on this property. which used to be a former Civil War hospital, which has hundreds of spirits in this area, obviously wounded soldiers that are captured here. I found this area to be kind of interesting. It's outside, you can get to it pretty easily, and it's considered one of the most haunted areas. So just a lot of I firmly believe it's all residual energy. But residual energy, what's nice about residual energy is that you can count on it happening again and again and again. So if you really wanted to have some sort of experience, you know, a residual energy is the best way to go, I think, because you're going to get that experience. You might not get the interaction, but you'll get an experience.
That's a
You
good
know,
point.
residual energy happens again and again, usually pretty like on time with things. Um, I went next to a lighthouse. My mom
Awesome.
collect lighthouses and stuff, and she's a big lighthouse person. But off the north coast of Georgia, so now we're closer to Savannah, of course, is Tybee Island, and the Tybee Island Colonial Lighthouse is there. And it was first, it went through many iterations, the Tibby Lighthouse. In 1736, it was constructed first of wood, but it was only temporary because in 1737, it was then created out of stone and wood, but erosion got to that. In 1773, it was made of brick. As you can imagine, it went through many different iterations. In 1862, in the Civil War, it was destroyed. Rebuilt again. In 1933, it was finally electrified, had electricity going through it. And then in 2002, the Lighthouse Historical Society took ownership of it. And it is open to the public. So, what happens here at the Tibby Lighthouse is reported odd patches of fog. I don't know, you're on the coast. I don't know if fog is very odd, but it must be just patches of it, odd patches of fog. You can hear phantom whistling.
Hmm.
Are you going to get the electronics and the battery drains happening here in this area too? People report seeing shadowy figures in their periphery. There's a man that gets sighted who's in lighthouse keeper in the light keeper's garb. He appears to be living like full apparition, and then he just dissipates away. And then this is interesting because I think this is the one intelligent haunting in the at the Tibby Light, which is that of a little girl. And the little girl is shown usually ascending the tower, and she tells people not to go any further up.
Huh.
Apparently, a lot of EVPs, which are electronic voice recordings, are caught here at the Tibby Light. So that's another place you can go, the Tibby Lighthouse. And then I investigated the Sorrel Weed House in Savannah, which is known as probably the most haunted house. Originally, it's the original residence of the Sorrel family. It was built in 1837. It has some. It was. It's been featured on a few paranormal shows like Ghost Adventures, Ghost Hunters, and the most terrifying places in America. But probably the most famous thing about this house is that it is the opening shot to the movie of Forrest Gump.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yep.
that's awesome.
Which actually isn't even a bench there. It's a sidewalk, but yeah.
Um, well, it was built in 1837, but was built on top of an old burial ground of Revolutionary soldiers, believe it or not. So during the Revolutionary War, I guess there were like trenches and stuff, and they couldn't keep up with burial, so just buried soldiers basically where they found them. And this house was built on top of a burial ground. So as you can imagine, you're going to get a lot of activity through a burial ground, particularly that of soldiers that died in battle. So let's see. So I think his name was Francis. He married, this is interesting. So Francis Sorrel, the man of the house, married Lucinda, who died a few years after their marriage. She died. Francis then married the younger sister of Lucinda named Matilda. Matilda committed suicide. She found out that Francis was having an affair with his slave named Molly, and she was so distraught, she went running and jumped off the balcony of the second story, but landed on her head, which killed her. Molly, guilt-ridden, hung herself. So Molly and Matilda are known to haunt the house. There have been reports of them walking. You could see them walking. Reports of them, this is even creepier, seeing them in the mirrors. So that is something that I will say people who might not be as clairvoyant might notice something behind them in a reflection or a mirror, and that's something I could see happening. Molly is mostly known to haunt the slave quarters, and because it's built on this burial ground, a lot of people hear gunshots happening. So this is one place if you'd like to go visit, you certainly could. And then, believe it or not, Georgia, not only do we have the Lady in White at Kennesaw Mountain, I found four more.
Wow. Okay.
Alice Riley is her name. She's in Savannah. She was executed for murder in 1735. Her spirit is believed to roam Wright Square of Savannah. Some legends suggest she haunts the area to look for her child who died shortly after she was imprisoned, often appearing to pregnant women or mothers with infants. Others say her ghost still screams as she's being hanged. She appears in white. The Moon River Brewing Company of Savannah, they have a lady in white. Formerly the City Hotel, is a location considered one of the most haunted in Savannah, and they have a lady in white that's reported in their upper floors. The Chatham Manor Lady in White, that's a ghost that's said to appear every 7 years on June 21st, walking a path to the river in memory of a lost love. Every 7 years on June 21st, this lady in white appears. That's definitely very residual. And then the Chickamauga, I might be butchering that name, battlefield. There's a lady in white there, a very popular ghost in North Georgia. That spirit is said to be a woman who was left at the altar and to the 80-foot tall Wilder Tower and jumped to her death. What is it with these women jumping to their death when they're, She is reportedly seen leaping from the tower around midnight or appearing in the passenger seats of cars.
Oh.
Okay.
How would you like that? That reminded me of the Walt Disney World Haunted Mansion when you go through and at the end you get the apparition and it ends up like you could see them in your little amusement ride car. But yeah, so you either going to see her jumping from the tower at midnight or she's going to appear in your car next to you. So.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
You got options.
I've had plenty of visitors in my car as I'm driving, so all right.
I feel like I got a whole team with me, so I don't know.
If we add these four ladies to the one at Kennesaw Mountain, there's 5 ladies in white in Georgia.
Wow.
That's a record.
That is a record.
That's a lot of push pins. A lot of push pins.
Lots of push pins, but Georgia is so beautiful. Like Savannah is so romantic and full of really rich lore, as you go through. Highly recommend if you go down to Savannah to like take one of the ghost tours because every corner has this beautiful, has some kind of lore to it, from the all women's hospital that said that the woman that owned that hospital was a scorned wife, and from that day forward she wouldn't allow men, even Civil War soldiers, into the hospital. And if women were there and gave birth to a baby boy, they were kicked out. Like no boys. Like this woman went on like a rampage. So there's the famous hospital. Then you have the famous bread house in Savannah, right? Where the song Patty Cake came from, which is really cool. It was the oven house of the square. So every morning people would bring their bread because back in that time they didn't have their own stoves, right? So this was an oven house or a furnace house, and people would drop off their breads and people would stamp the top of their breads with their initials. So this is where the song Patty Cake came from. Patty cake, bake me, right? And mark it with a B, that would have symbolized, I think in recent, in now time we say B for birthday, but originally it was whatever your initials were. So when you came back at the end of the day to pick up the bread, you would take the bread that had your seal on it. So like there's lots of lore that happens all around beautiful Savannah.
For sure. There's a lot of haunted places that I didn't investigate. There's just
Oh,
so
there's no way.
but
So
all through the state of Georgia too. I mean, you
yeah.
have plantations with plantation homes. There's just a rich history of also a lot of trauma after the Civil War, just a lot of the slaves, all of that energy caught there. So much that you can find in Georgia with hauntings and things. I mean, that's just a tip. And we're going to continue our Haunted America series in the South. This is just part one. We have more Southern states to check into for our next week. But before we go, I do want to remind our listeners that we are doing a live taping on May 4th. You can find the link to sign up and register for that on the Artist Haven Media website as well as Serenity Grove Wellness Center's website. And we'll have to post that in our social media as well. And I also want to let our listeners know that we have coming up. We're going to be, our Ready to Connect podcast is going to be at the New Age Fair on March 29th at the William Pitkin Community Center in Wethersfield. It's at 30 Greenfield Street, and that's from 10 to 4 p.m. We'll be there, and so will a lot of other New Age and metaphysical vendors that you can take advantage of there. So definitely pop out and see us. We'd love to see you in person and meet you. That would be amazing. Think that is all of the events that are coming up for us, correct? Yeah.
Correct.
Still, you can reach out to us with stories of your own hauntings at readytoconnectpodcast@gmail.com or email or hit us up on our social media. We would love to hear from y'all. Correct?
We'll also post everything on our social media page, so be sure to like and follow us.
Yeah. So until next week,
be well.
Yeah, we'll get ready to connect. We'll see you then.
Thank you for tuning in to Ready to Connect. If you're interested in exclusive behind-the-scenes content, be sure to like, share, and follow us on social media by searching for Ready to Connect Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And for those looking to further support our podcast, consider subscribing to our Patreon at patreon.com/readytoconnectpodcast.